Welcome to Same Spit Different Face TV. Well, my opinions is facts, and if you don't like my opinions, you can start your own podcast, and it's free. So don't forget to spit on the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification. Spit Squad. Boosie found himself being re-indicted on that gun case. Now, if you don't remember, Boosie caught a gun case out in California. The gun case was dismissed by a judge, but then the prosecutors came back and said, not so fast. They charged him again, but they charged him basically as being an addict with a gun. Now, I don't know if this is true. And the part I mean, I don't know if it's true, the addict part. But basically, what I think is Boosie may have caught a drug charge before. He may have pleaded guilty, but in pleading guilty, he probably agreed to take some addict classes or some drug classes. That's what I'm trying to say. And so since you take that drug class, they classify you as an addict because they giving you this leniency based on the fact that you may say, hey, I'm abusing drugs. I just need a drug class. Or your lawyer may just say, hey, I'm going to get you out of this. Sign these paperwork, agree to this. They're going to give you a drug class is over with. And you being the client, you just looking at it like it's a win for you. You're not really paying attention to what's being said or what's being stated. You just know that you're not going to jail and you're not getting a felony on your record, or you're not getting a felony and you paying a little fine. Whatever the case, you getting a misdemeanor. Whatever the case may be, right? But they're classifying you as a drug abuser whenever they put you into a drug class, alcohol class, whatever that may be, right? So this could be at. Now, the problem that I've seen a couple of lawyers say is that it's no law against a person who's been to any type of AA classes owning or being around a firearm. Now, obviously, Boosie is a felon, so he can't be in possession of a weapon legally anyway, but that's not the angle they're taking. So this may be something just to get Boosie back into the loophole. Maybe they just trying to get him back on the paperwork and they're going to throw something bigger in there later. But another thing you have to think about too, if it's drugs in the area, which they didn't take this angle, but if it's drugs in the area and they find a gun, they can write it up and say, hey, these guns were here to protect the drugs, which makes that a bigger charge against Boosie, allegedly, if they decide to go this route. But I just wanted to let y'all know, and we'll figure out where they're going with this as we move forward. Elliot Wilson and Charlamagne the God are into it. Now, who wins in this situation? Complex Magazine, because for about 2 to 3 weeks, they've been talking about the Complex Top 25 list. And so what ended up happening on the Brilliant Idiots, Charlamagne basically read the list and he said Elliot Wilson shouldn't be on there. Now, his point is that, Elliot Wilson don't have his own platform. Well, when you look at the situation of a lot of these guys who report their news on YouTube, that's not their own platform. They're using somebody else's platform. So when you look at it, he's basically saying somewhere where they can go and sit there and they can disseminate their information. But Elliot, has he done a lot this year? I don't know because I don't follow Elliot like that. But that ended up with Elliot basically saying F you to Charlamagne, and Elliot probably felt like it was hate. He probably felt like, why don't you want me on this list? Now, I feel like it's an underlying situation to this, why he don't want him there, and we'll have to see what that's about. Now, when Charlamagne was on the Brilliant Idiots this week, he was basically ran down everything that him and Elliot had gotten to it about, and how he tried to call Elliot, invited him on the Breakfast Club to talk about it, and he also tried to invite him on Brilliant Idiots to talk about it. And Elliot basically just don't want to sit across from Charlamagne. Now, one important thing that Charlamagne pointed out, it was a document that came out earlier this week that said that Diddy was supposed to have ran down on a woman at Vibe over a cover. He said that he would kill her, essentially, allegedly. And Elliot Wilson, I didn't know that, but Charlamagne said that that was Elliot Wilson's wife. So Charlamagne other problem was, you talking tough to me and you saying F me, but when Diddy said he was gonna kill your wife, you haven't said anything to Diddy about it, but you and Diddy been running around being buddy or at least cordial, right? And so he pointed out how Elliot has said some things about Childish Gambino, and now he's saying things about him. And Charlamagne's biggest thing is Don't speak out against the people that you think won't say nothing to you. Don't speak out against the people that you think, or talk down on the people that you think won't run up on you because you think they not built like that. But then it's a person like Diddy who threatened your wife. She had to be snuck out of the Vibe building. He told us she'll get found in the trunk. You didn't say anything to Diddy in the 90s when Diddy was at his most powerful. So I kind of agree with that, but also at the same time, I kind of think it's petty. And I listen to both sides and I understand where they both coming from. But I think that when Charlamagne said that he shouldn't have been number 5, he could have did that a lot better. And at the end of the day, it's their list, right? So if you don't like their list, is obviously he can critique his list, but he also has the ability to come back and make a top 25 brilliant idiots list. And that would have probably been way better than critiquing a complex list. And to be clear what I'm saying, I'm not saying that he can't critique the complex list. I'm saying in addition to critiquing the complex list, you could have came back with a brilliant idiot list of the top 25, and you could have had everybody else talking about your list and critiquing your list, and you could have put yourself in that space as to where now Complex got to get it right and they got to do it correct, because now you doing it and they can end up being irrelevant. And when I speak about it, we talking about how like Uncle Murder has taken the year-end wrap-up for Mad Skills. At first, everybody used to look forward to Mad Skills. Now, we see Uncle Murder doing it, and it's over with for Mad Skills doing it. So that's what Charlamagne could have did with the Brilliant Idiots. Claressa Shields, man, she continues to amaze me. She won last night when she knocked out LePage Jonas. I hope I said her name right. But anyway, Claressa Shields has won her 5th weight class. She called herself the greatest woman alive, and I think she is the greatest woman boxer of all times. At this point, even if she retired right now, she would still continue to be the greatest. I don't think that nobody can come behind her and actually beat this. One, because she fights a lot. Now, when we look at this era, not a lot of boxers fight a lot. When we look back in the day, we got boxers that had 70 fights under their belt, 65, 55, 58, and a lot of these boxers only fighting every 3 years, every 2 years. I don't understand it. And one of my qualifications for being the GOAT is actually being able to do it consistently. And a lot of these boxers, they don't do it consistently. They take 1 year off, 2 years off. And the crazy thing about taking years off is that, especially when it comes to a sport like boxing, where you have to react and you have to be able to see and do X, Y, Z, you lose some of that reaction time. You lose some of that power. You lose some of that agility. You lose some of that strength. And you lose that edge too. You know what I'm saying? One of the biggest things when you look at a lot of these young fighters and a lot of these fighters that are hungry when they're younger, they hungry and they fight like that because they come from a place of poverty, or they come from a place of, I'm fighting in order to get myself from living inside of a car. I'm fighting to pay for my mother's surgery. I'm fighting to move my family over from my war-ridden country. So that's why you see a lot of these young fighters come in and they just explode and they take off, because they fighting for purpose. But as a lot of these fighters get rich, a lot of these fighters get fame, a lot of these fighters start getting endorsement, their life become too comfortable and they lose that hunger. And so you see a lot of them, they end up winning maybe their first 10 fights, maybe first 20 fights if they fighting faster fights. But when they start getting into like year 5, year 6, year 7, you start seeing a lot of these fighters decline fast. And I believe it's because they don't have that hunger after that. So what's more important is, as famous and as rich Claressa Shields has become and continue to be, she still found a way to be able to find that hunger and get into the ring and dominate and not play. When I look at Claressa Shields, she is who I believe Deontay Wilder should have became, had he not got knocked out by Tyson Fury and had he not did all the other stuff where he lost. But in my personal opinion, this is who he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be reigning supreme in boxing. He's supposed to be the number 1 in boxing, and everything's supposed to go through him. But obviously, we've seen him not take boxing as serious as Claressa Shields have, and we've seen her become one of the greatest boxers ever, even if she never boxed again. We've seen her go over to UFC and win with a knockout. and then we've seen her come back to boxing and win with a knockout. So salute to Claressa Shields. Any woman boxers out there, if you're looking for somebody to model your boxing after, it would be her. And it starts with the hard work and the dedication. I know y'all see all the things she do on Twitter where she has her opinions and she talks crazy to people and about people and just all those different antics. But even if that gets her the notoriety, if she wasn't winning, she wouldn't have any of the notoriety. So salute to Claressa Shields, the GOAT of women's boxing. And to me, I'm not 100% sure if I believe it's a lot of men that she could beat in boxing just because the difference in strength and size. But I definitely believe that she's better than a lot of the man boxers. And so just to be clear, what do I mean by that? If you put her up against the best person in her sport and you put them up against the best person in their sport, I believe that she would dominate the best in her field more than they would dominate the best in their field. Just like if you were comparing a NBA player to another NBA player, it's like, yeah, you got like your Michael Jordan and your Kobe Bryant and your LeBron Jameses, but then you got that tier under your Scottie Pippens and your Kawhi Leonards and stuff of that nature. Like, yeah, they great, but they don't reach that level of greatness. Oh, look at that. I should probably get like 4 of these, bro. And the little Da Vinci, it's basic, but it's decent, though. Let's see what it is. 3? I'll probably get like 3 of these. Well, I'm probably finna just get my lady all of these right here. Christian Louis Vuitton. That one crazy right there. With Chanel number 5. What a Burberry store. Oh, there you go right there. Rest in peace to Sonay Massey. A woman was shot in Springfield, Illinois. So essentially what ended up happening, she called the police because she thought she saw a disturbance in her front yard. When the police got there, they came into the house, and once they got into the house, one of the officers told her, hey, go turn that hot pot off on the stove. She went over there to turn it off. She picked up the pot. She basically told the other guy, who she may have sensed was being aggressive or he was being off-putting, she told him, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. He asked her, what did you say? She actually then ended up taking her hand off of that pot. When she took her hand off of that pot, she put her hands like up in the air. He ended up shooting her. I think he shot her like 3 times. The other officer who didn't shoot said, hey, let me go get my medical kit. And then the officer who did shoot said, nah, don't even worry about it. She's shot in the head. She's gone. And then once the medics actually came there, you can see that she was losing a lot of blood. I think the other cop did eventually end up going to get his medical kit. Obviously, she ended up dying from the wounds she sustained. Now, the other part about this is that the cop who did that, he basically lied when his lieutenant got there and asked him what happened. He basically said she lunged at him. It's clear in the video that she never lunged at him. Now, who knew or who knows why all of this ended up playing out like it did? A lot of people keep saying, yo, when she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, it set him off. They believe that it set them demons off inside of him. Now, however you choose to see that, that's however you choose to see that. I have a few opinions on this, but, you know, some of them may come off as insensitive. So at this moment, I won't give my opinion on the situation, but I will say that he definitely overreacted to what happened. He definitely was in no danger. And one of the things that I said is that he didn't have to shoot her. And not only did he not have to shoot her, if he felt like she was a threat, he's equipped with a taser, and that taser could have been used to hit her from a safe distance away. And then maybe she would have had that pot in her hand, which she didn't. But even if he thought she still had the pot in her hand, maybe she would have sustained some burns, but at that point she wouldn't have been dead, and he would have been in a much better situation than this. Now, this is a unique situation because a few cops have came out to like outwardly condemn his actions and basically say, hey, what he did was considered murder. He was in no threat. If he wasn't a threat, like, because if you even see the cop who didn't shoot, he stepped off to the side as she was getting that pot off that stove, as if he was like, I don't know what's going on with her, but if she do decide to throw this pot or to try to launch me with this pot, I'm far enough away as to where I won't get it. And the guy who actually did do the shooting, he said, well, I'm not taking a pot of hot water to the face, but she never presented any threat of throwing that pot, because when he said put the pot down and told he was going to shoot her in the face, she instantly took her hands off the pot and put her hands up in the air. Now, the only thing I could see when I look at this situation, she still had those gloves in her hand, and in a split second, he could have mistakenly thought that maybe the pot was still in her hand. But like I said, even with that, if he thought he was in danger, he could have just pulled out a taser and tased her. And also, if he felt like, she was in proximity to lunge at him, he should have put more space between himself and her like the other cop did. So for me, I definitely think he's going to get found guilty about this case. I definitely think that he overreacted to the situation. And one thing I think is that, when they talk about defunding the cops, I've always said that I think that, those funds that get to the cops need to go to the community centers and mental health workers who can come into that space and help train cops on how to deal with people they have mental health issues with. And also, maybe they can start a new department where they have mental health cops, where, at least one cop on each team gets trained, at least the most basic training, in order to be able to deal with mental health situations. Now, I'm not saying this is a mental health situation. A lot of people are saying that this may have been a mental health situation, but if you're a woman and you living at home by yourself and you think you hear something out in your front yard, well, obviously calling the law enforcement would be the best thing to do, because you feel like if anything is wrong there in that front yard or at that house, they would have the authority to help you with that. Oh, another thing that I heard, and I'm not sure 100% of how true this is, but they said it might have been some car windows bust out in her front yard. Now, like I said, I don't know how true that is, but that could lend to the fact that someone was prowling around in her front yard. Now, one of my friends, he did say something very interesting. He said that, she called about somebody prowling around in her front yard, but who was it that she might have heard prowling around in her front yard? And he took it even further as to say, could it have possibly been that cop or those cops who could have been in her front yard looking for something, or something could have happened in the neighborhood and somebody could have been just out in her front yard. But long story less long, in no way, shape, or form should you call the law enforcement to get help, not present any threat, and then end up dead. So yeah, that's a super unfortunate situation. So rest in peace to Sonay Massey. Gillie Da Kid and Camron have a friendly back and forth. Now, to my understanding, Gillie says something about Cam. I can't remember exactly what it was. Y'all can go look that up, because I don't care to go look it up. But when we look at it, Camron came back with the jokes, and it was a picture of Gillie and R. Kelly, and R. Kelly had his arm around Gillie, and Gillie was holding R. Kelly's hand, and it says, yo, Gillie the King, F going on. This way you get the phrase, nut ass nigga, we gotta have a convo. 1, where was y'all at? 2, did he drug you? 3, did you want to get on that bad? Pause. I got more questions. Hit me, bro. So y'all know by now that Camron, he not gonna bite his tongue. He gonna go back and forth with anybody. And if somebody take a joke on him, he gonna take that joke back. And if they take it further, he willing to take it further as well. He always gonna speak his mind. And now, after seeing It Is What It Is, I'm starting to find out that Mace is a person who speaks his mind also. So I think this is actually a great situation for both of them. They both got 2 top tier podcasts. They both do sports every once in a while. So I think it's good for them to go back and forth with this banter. I don't think it's going to go anywhere from here. I think it's all jokes. They both extremely funny, and they both extremely funny when it come to putting together skits and just little words and stuff like that. So I think that'll work real well for both of them and both of their brand. Salute to Camron and Gillie. I know a lot of y'all want to see this turn into something, but I highly doubt it'll turn anything, because they both OGs at this point. They seem like they have a good relationship, because at the end, Camron called him bro, and that was basically just like, letting them know you my brother. This is all jokes, but you said something about me, I'm gonna say something about you. TNT sues the NBA, so that'll be Ernie, Shaq, Kenny the Jet Smith, and Charles Barkley. TNT has filed a lawsuit on the NBA for reportedly denying their offer matching Amazon bid to acquire media rights to the NBA. The network will potentially make the case that the NBA breached contract by choosing Amazon's offer despite long-term partners TNT matching the bid. Fans are eagerly awaiting the verdict to determine which network would acquire broadcasting rights, and it also determines the future of the famous Inside the NBA show featuring Shaq, Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Ernie Johnson. Now, the one thing we got to understand about this situation is that I think Amazon bid it like $1.5 billion, and TNT came back and matched it. Now, the problem with TNT, where they saying it's a breach of contract, they basically saying, hey, we've been in business so long with each other and we gave y'all the bid back. We bidded exactly what they bidded, so you're not losing money. So what is your reason for not accepting what we're doing? Now, I think another thing, the reason why TNT has to try to fight for this, because I believe if TNT actually ends up losing this and they end up losing the bid for the NBA, well, not only do they not have one of their biggest shows that's on the TNT network, but also they may end up losing out on Kenny, Shaq, Ernie, and Chuck, and they may end up going and signing a deal to work for Amazon, and that would surely mean the end and the demise of TNT. Now, TNT may still be around as a network, but they won't have the earning potential that they have now. So if you look at it like this, let's just say if TNT on the off when sports isn't on, they may get $500,000 for a commercial placement within their segment right there, right, for their network. Now, when you look at it in the NBA season, when you have the Inside the NBA on there and you have the NBA games on the channel, they may get $5 million per commercial during that time. So they losing out on so much revenue and so much profit. And then when you think about the shareholders, once they lose TNT NBA, the shareholders for TNT may actually back out and start pulling their money out, which would, like I say, surely be the demise of TNT. So TNT has to fight this. And also, at the same time, Charles Barkley has also talked about his potential to basically go and do his own thing. And so the one thing that I look at with Charles Barkley ended up signing a massive contract maybe like 2 years ago. And I think it was like a 5-year contract, 10-year contract, something crazy, right? Well, the problem with that is that TNT would probably still be on the hook to have to pay Charles Barkley because it wouldn't be a breach of contract on his end. And also, he probably has some verbiage in that contract where if anything fall through or if he's not allowed to do things for that specific network, he's probably allowed to go somewhere else. So TNT has to spend every penny they can to try to make sure they can get these people back. Now, the thing is, if they get TNT back, no harm, no foul, they'll be able to make all the money they spent on legal fees back, and they'll probably have the NBA on the hook for those legal fees. But if they end up losing this, man, they're going to lose so much money. And I would guess that shortly after that, they would either end up selling the TNT network or they would end up filing for some type of bankruptcy. Once again, this is Fairplay 2333 of Same Spit, Different Face podcast, where my opinions is facts. And if you don't like my opinions, you can start your own podcast. And if you do like my opinions, you can click the subscribe button and follow me on all platforms. Peace. Check out my original Chicago hood movie in the end screen, No Time to Play Fair. Once again, this is Fairplay 2333 of Same Spit, Different Face podcast, where my opinions is facts. And if you don't like my opinions, you can start your own podcast. And if you do like my opinions, you can hit the subscribe button and follow me on all platforms. Peace.